What are the main differences between the Laguiole knives? Well, there are some emotional aspects and some real differences. Let's start with the emotional part of Laguiole. First, you have to decide whether you want a knife made in France or one made in China or Pakistan. There are some dealers in France which buy their knives in China and then sell them from France to you. So you probably would think the knives are handmade in France just because the company selling them is from there. Well, on our website, originallaguiole.com, we only sell knives actually made in France. We know all manufacturers personally, and we visit them from time to time to see for ourselves how the knives are made. Laguiole knives originally come from the village Laguiole, France, a small town with a population of 1,240. If you collect Laguiole knives, you'll start to love them and will want to keep adding to your collection. There will come a time that you'll want to own not just a knife, but also a piece of history. And that is the time to buy a Laguiole knife made in Laguiole. There are currently 3 manufacturers that work directly out of Laguiole: Forge de Laguiole, Laguiole du Berry, and Laguiole Honoré Durand. These 3 manufacturers produce their knives right in the village of Laguiole itself. But Laguiole knives are also produced up to 300 miles around the village. All these manufacturers use the same steel for the blade, 12C27, except Forge de Laguiole, which uses T30, and almost the same materials for the handle. The company's registered offices and factory locations have no influence on the quality of the knife. So there is an emotional decision to be made. Do you want to have a knife made in the village of Laguiole or one made in France? One of the real differences is the bee, or rather, how the bee is attached. With the cheaper Laguiole knives, the bee is welded on, and the spring of the knife is generally somewhat simpler. These knives usually cost between $60 and $100. One of the real differences is the bee, or rather, how the bee is attached. With the cheaper Laguiole knives, the bee is welded on, and the spring of the knife is generally somewhat simpler. These knives usually cost between $60 and $100. But the really beautiful and generally more expensive Laguiole knives have a different bee. This famous Laguiole bee and the spring are forged from a single piece of steel. It's still true that the more expensive the knife is, the more detailed the bee and spring will be. In fact, it's in the love for the details that define the differences between the manufacturers. To collect Laguiole knives is to collect the love for a product with many hundred years of tradition, to collect artwork handed down from generation to generation. Do you want to learn and hear more about Laguiole knives and the manufacturers who produce them? You can visit us on our website, originallaguiole.com, where you can browse our collection at your leisure for beautiful Laguiole knives.